all, this is AMS Blackbird. In my videos, I'll be giving away liveries, builds, and tunes for GT7. My first car I'm giving away, a 2016 GT350R. It's 695 horsepower, 3,142 pounds. I've been working on this car since day one of GT7. The beauty of the GT350 has a very high lateral G at 75 miles an hour, making it a very good technical car. If you can keep the tires under it, short tracks are viable as well. The braking is only average. This car does suffer at high speeds, as it runs out of steam about 160 miles an hour, as does the handling decay eventually to understeer. Nonetheless, it is a weapon in the right hands. Side note, I tune for absolute speed first and foremost. I don't tune for feel. It doesn't matter to me as long as I can keep the car on the track. So the start of this video is going to be more slides giving away information, going over the livery, stuff like that about the vehicle. Then in the middle, I'm going to have some driving footage of the vehicle for you to see, a couple of hot lap sessions with the car, so you can get a good handle for how the vehicle is going to feel. Then towards the end of the video, after the tune, I'm going to have a long-winded explanation about some technical tuning things and how this video got delayed because I made a major tuning change to the vehicle that picked up time as well as made it a lot easier to drive. So as far as the livery goes, this is a tribute to the 90s Celine Allen SN95 Mustang race cars. If you note the hashtags, the livery is on my page with all the correct parts for the build, such as track width, wide rims, and aero parts. For all the cars I'll release, I'll include an average difficulty scale based on how hard the vehicle is to drive. 10 being straight homicidal, 1 is basically a Prius. That being said, I rate this Mustang a solid 7. The GT350 can feel like you're riding a bull at times, wanting to kick all around the track. Learn to counter steer, scrub the front tires, and you'll survive. I've added power band information because it is crucial to get speed out of this car. Shift at about 8,000 RPM. By 8,250 RPM, this engine is done making power. Your goal is to keep this engine between 7 and 8,000 RPMs all the time. Most long straights, this shifting strategy is worth 4 to 5 miles an hour. The gearbox provided in my tune is also tuned to perfection. For extra grip on corner exit, you can over-rev the engine past 8,000 RPM and the car will hook up nicely, but beware, this can eat corner exit speed as power is decreasing fast. Some extra hints on how to drive this vehicle. Throttle control is your friend. Get on the gas way earlier than you'd expect, almost like the car's all-wheel drive, but just do it extra light and slowly. Gently is key. It will add corner exit speed to this vehicle. The car will reward you by sticking. Don't be afraid to dive also into higher speed braking zone. This car is tuned to be stable at that moment at the limit under braking. However, below 70 miles an hour it starts to get loose to help aid in rotation on short, tight turns. Once the rear aero starts planning the rear of the car, you can transition left to right on throttle very aggressively. This starts around 110 miles an hour in third gear. Expect the car to get loose over bumps. I often ride rumble strips to help rotate the vehicle, also using all the track I can. This is a secret to getting very fast as a driver regardless of what vehicle you are in. Lastly, be patient and give this car time. It will reward good driving and decimate the competition with great driving. I use it all the time because it is different, and I am hoping to see a lot more of these online to get rid of the status quo of what is simple and easy to tune. Okay, that's enough of me talking. The following footage is for you to visualize how this car drives. Pay attention to how I control understeer, oversteer, sliding, and anything in between. You're going to see some pretty good lap times by this car on multiple tracks. So there's actually two tunes I'm giving away here. I'm going to cycle through the adjustments in the build momentarily, and then I will explain the reasoning for the second tune and why it took me so long to make this video, as I had been speaking about doing this for about a month now with multiple people. So this is going to be a little long, but I'm going to tell a little story about AMS and sometimes how teamwork can be serendipitous when tuning. I was finalizing the testing on the GT350 on Watkins Glen's NASCAR course. Nothing was abnormal at first until I got to the long right-hand turn where the NASCAR and main course deviate from one another. The car just plowed right off the track. I never experienced it, never behaved this way on any other track before. Felt like it was bottoming out, but it also felt like I was encountering like terminal understeer. Uh, Not good enough to let out the door and let people try. It was very bad. And it was weird because I tuned this car for the long course, and the long course the car does a 41.9, which is pretty phenomenal. I had a lot of confidence in the vehicle. So I had been at the time in a share screen session with Dude. He was watching. We ended up kind of both playing around with this car at the same time, tinkering as I'm driving. It's one of my better tracks. I have tuned a lot on this track, so I know kind of how to push the car to the limit very quickly so I can get useful data to understand what I have to change. One of the things that was very abnormal is we play with the ride height, which I've done before, but then the camber is where Dude and I, we somewhat deviate in our tuning strategy. He likes lower values in the front. I tend to like higher values. But just at random, I put something almost implausibly high in the front. After knowing that implausibly high in the rear is faster, I said, let me try the front. And to my surprise, increasing the camber up to negative 4.5 degrees in the front added tremendous amounts of grip. Now, it's not outside the realm of reality because if you were to look up, say, the last generation of Mustang before this GT350 in real life, there's a lot of people that still running a strut setup run well over 4 degrees of camber. It's beneficial in these vehicles to use as much camber as possible to the point where you start sacrificing straight line braking. Now, I'm going to get to why I think that doesn't really matter in GT7 with this vehicle. However, what did matter is the speed increase I achieved pretty much on every track. So where I settled with this revised tune is somewhat of a halfway point between the original ride height Dood suggested and what I had thought based on how the vehicle was rotating throughout the entire track. Too much ride height, the vehicle would oversteer way too hard in the corners. Too low ride height, the car would push way too hard in the corners. So this was a happy medium to where I knew I could be reliable with the vehicle at pretty much any condition. I could dive into turns, throw it, chuck it in, not worry about it coming out from underneath me. So the theories as to why this front camber setting is faster, I have 3 of them. The GT350 has massive front tires. For a production road car, I believe stock, they are a 305 section front width, and also a 305 or 15 for rear width, which is massive for a front tire. Once you start removing weight from a vehicle and having a tire that big, you get tons of mechanical grip. The second reason is a little bit more involved. If you think about the framework of what running at 700 pp is in GT7, most vehicles don't run upgraded brakes. So the issue of once you increase camber, you sacrifice your braking distance doesn't come into play because you don't have enough braking force to overcome the force of the tires under braking. So you're never going to overutilize the tire under braking. Therefore, you mitigate and eliminate one of the main reasons why you would not want to run that high of camber. The third reason is more of a assumption, but I am not 100% certain on this, but because I can't see we don't have telemetry, but I'm starting to believe that the tire model is not accurate under certain situations, allowing low camber to work because of watching the contact patch of the tire and the tire flexing through the turn once loaded. There comes a point at which we are riding on the outside edge of the tire, therefore overheating, losing grip, not adequately using the entire contact patch. So, in the end, when you see the second tune and you drive the second tune, this is really the intention of this vehicle. I picked up tons of time to a point where I'm running the times that I hot lap that you saw in this video before. I'm running them in the lobbies now. And if you know that there is a much slower lap time usually in lobbies compared to in tuning sessions. So, big time change. The only track I'll say that there's a change is Road Atlanta. The car somehow got 0.3 slower with the revised tune. The older tune is still faster there because you could feel the vehicle being more planted and you could feel the weight shifting much better. But that's really the only difference. So what's next? I have a lot more vehicles up the pipeline to give away builds, tunes, and liveries for. However, the next 2 are going to be a Focus RS, a short track car, and an 064 GT, specifically designed to take down Vipers. I also have a Maserati MC20 and a Ferrari F40 up the pipeline. I might give away a Diablo GT as well, but I have to make that car a lot more user-friendly. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please check out the other following AMS channels as well as some of my friends I've attached here. Till next time.